Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Shruti Mouli Coaching Podcast. And today I have the fabulous Gavin Weiner here with me, and he specializes in business automation. He works with online and spiritual holistic coaches to set up automations and processes, which then allows them to focus on their business, do the fun parts, and stay in their genius zone and do what they do best. And Gavin does what he does best, which is automate their business. Welcome, Gavin. It's really good to have you here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm glad we could find the time.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I just want to start this off by knowing a little bit about you, what you do, who are you, who is Gavin Weiner? Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So obviously you kind of read out a bit of the description about me. So I am an automation and business consultant. So I find myself focusing on small businesses, mostly online spiritual and holistic coaches and consultants to essentially dive into their businesses a little bit and find ways to save them time and help them grow, as you were saying. And I mean, essentially, that's going to allow people to focus on the things they enjoy in their business, and then also focus on the things that they're best at, like you're saying, stay in their zone of genius. And
Yeah.
I come from a background of like strong computer science, like proper coding and building websites and applications and stuff. But I didn't really enjoy working in the corporate environment, working for businesses, selling, helping sell more clothes. It was cool. It was lots of fun experiences and cool people, but it naturally developed into wanting to work with smaller businesses and online coaches to let them focus on the things they enjoy.
And let you do what you do best, automate their business.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also just more fun for me to help people from very different backgrounds, people with quite different focuses, even in the spiritual space. So it's really rewarding.
That's good. Talking about different places and different backgrounds, I've seen a few of your Facebook feeds. Tell us where you live, Gavin.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if people can work out from the accent, but I was originally born in South Africa, but I've been traveling pretty much around the world for the last 4 to 5 years, just finding different experiences, different cultures, just seeing kind of what's out there, and also finding what works for me kind of environment wise. And right now I've been in Bali for the last about year and a half. So it's been quite a fun journey.
Fantastic. And your posts just make me jealous all the time because it's beautiful waters, glorious sunshine. There's always a tender coconut in front of you. Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, funny enough, it took me, I was not into coconuts at all. I was like, why is everyone so into coconuts? And then kind of starts to grow on you a little bit after a while.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's healthy. It's so fresh, isn't it?
Yeah, especially after, I mean, I've also been focusing on my surfing a lot more lately, and like after a surf, it's like, it really is super like refreshing.
Fantastic. Coming back to what you do, can you tell us what automation is and how you got into this field? I know you've done computer engineering and stuff and you're into coding, but what is automation in itself? How do you automate a business and what made you get into it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good kind of thing to address early on, because I think there's a lot of kind of preconceived ideas around automation. Because if you say the word automation, people think of one thing straight away. But for me, it's a combination of things. So yes, it is technology. It's using technology that we don't have to touch, and it kind of does the repetitive things we don't want to do and the things that we have to do. But for me, it's automation goes beyond that. It's also setting up the processes and procedures, even if that means just putting documentation together, and then we hand it off to someone who can then go do it for us, someone who's a remote worker or someone who's in your business already. But in my mind, that's also automation. It's just the overall goal of saving you time and making your life easier, and pretty much allowing you to be hands off.
Yeah. That's good, isn't it? I feel like, I have automated a few processes in my business,
Mhm.
like, sending out proposals and, invoicing and, even things like drafting a letter and stuff.
Mm.
It takes away so much, manual labor. Like you just click a button and it's done. Otherwise, I had to go in and manually do everything. Would you
Yeah.
call that automation?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure from your experience, like I'm curious, like a lot of those things probably weren't like big, if you know what I mean. There were lots of like little things which kind of build up
Yeah.
on each other.
So what I found was, for one customer to be, I shouldn't say customer, a client to be moved from one spot to the other, like
Mm.
from the time you talk to them to onboarding them to sending them invoices and, to send them follow-up letters and texts and, noting everything that we talk about. I've just
Mm.
started using a CRM system that does all of that for you. And what I found that even though things did not take a long time to do, when the number of clients pile up, when you're working, say if you've got 5 clients, it's easy to do, right?
Yeah.
Everything can be done manually. But at a point of time when you've got 15 clients and you've got to do the same thing for everyone, you're like, oh my goodness, this is taking so much time.
I
And
mean,
it saved a lot of my time.
the very fact that you're like, oh, 5 clients is fine, and like 15 is where you fall over. I'm already like at 5 clients.
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah,
there's already too much kind of repetitive manual stuff to do
yeah,
for
that's
me.
true. Yeah,
So obviously
yeah,
it's
yeah.
different for each person, but 15, that's you're a sucker for
Mm.
punishment in that case.
Yeah, I know, right? No, I agree because, I'm a business coach, right? And I teach my clients that anything that is done more than once in your business needs to be automated. There needs to be a process put in place. So
Yeah.
I suppose that's where you come in and you start automating things for people like me, of course, who
Mm.
thinks 5 is okay and 15 is too many.
Yeah.
So change my mind, Gavin.
Well, actually, on that point you said about, oh, if you do anything more than once, it should be automated. Like I disagree and agree with that at the same time because there's like a range. Like let's say you have something that you only do once a year and it's or like
Mm,
twice a year and it takes you maybe an hour each time to do it. Like the question comes down to like, is that worth automating? In my opinion, the answer is how long is it going to take you to set up the automation for that and how long are you going to be doing it for? Because
yeah.
if it's something you're literally going to be doing as maybe 2 times and then you're never doing it again in your business or like in total you do it 5 times but it takes you a full day to set it up, it's probably not even worth automating that. But again, if
Mm,
it's something like you said, you're doing it 2, 3, 4 times a week, then yes, then often that trade-off between like how long does it actually take to
yeah,
set up and
of
how
course.
much does it cost to set up versus now it's actually
Yeah,
worth doing it.
yeah. That's good. That's a great insight. Thank you. I'll take that on board as well. So, coming to the question of how long does automation take? So, if you had to kind of apply automation on your business, I
Mm.
know there are various aspects to it, but how long does it normally take?
Again, it's kind of like asking like how long is a piece of string type of thing. It really
Yeah.
depends on what you're trying to achieve. It's like let's say it's someone with a very simple business. Like at the moment, they're having to just send emails to remind people they
Mm,
have like a calendar booking type of thing.
yeah.
That can take 20 minutes because it's getting the person set up on a software like Calendly, which already works really well. There's no reason to build
Yes.
anything custom. Just get set up on Calendly, get things correctly worded and everything clicking
Mm,
together. And that takes 20 minutes. But let's say you have a team of 10 people and
mhm.
they need a CRM that's customized to their industry, like property or something like that. That could take a month to
Oh,
clearly
wow.
understand their current processes, understand how they deal with their data. Like, are they collecting specific things for their clients? Maybe they need signed
Mm,
documents and specific background information. It really, really depends on the person you're working with or the business you're working with. and what they're trying to achieve. So you kind of only know once you start diving into a specific situation.
Yeah. And how is automation received in the industry with spiritual coaches and holistic coaches?
Yeah, that's a really good question. That's because that's something that's come up quite a few times when I speak to people, just like friends and people I've kind of got friends of friends who are in the space. A big concern is when people think of automation and they don't know a lot about it, their first instinct is firstly, they think it's just email automation. So sending like sequences of emails, which are very important, but also they say, I don't want to feel inauthentic. I don't want it to feel robotic, which my first thought is, I mean, fair enough, because especially in that space of spirituality and holistic, you're building a very deep connection with the people you're working with. And the message you're putting out, you really do want it to be congruent and aligned with who you are and how you see the world. So that concern of like, I want to introduce, or I want to make my life easier, but I want it to still remain authentic, is a big concern that comes up. And my answer generally is, firstly, do you realize it's not just email automation? It can be just making things easier for you on the background, things that your clients don't see, but make it easier for you to keep in touch with your clients.
Nice. And what sort of automation? So you say it's not just email automation. Can you give us a few examples of automations?
Yeah, absolutely. So I quite recently finished working with someone named Florentin, and he's a online astral projection coach, which is pretty cool. It was the first time I come across that.
Yeah.
And like in his case, he doesn't really use email marketing very much. All of his marketing is done on Facebook. He brings in people that way. But where his issue was, each time he brought someone new on, like he was excited to work with them, but it was taking him an hour to onboard each new client. So it was creating their Google Docs, spreadsheets, and templates that he uses in his training, give them access to the course material and all these different kind of steps that needed to happen to get to the point of, okay, now we can actually start the work together. He was spending an hour plus minus with each new person. So we first looked at like, well, okay, which softwares is he using, which technologies, things like that. And ultimately the result ends up being just a Google form that he can fill out in 2 minutes. And then all of those things he was previously doing of clicking through Google Drive, copy this, copy that, share this, it just gets done with a bit of coding and a bit of automation. And he can just focus on actually working with clients as opposed to onboarding them each time. So it's literally an hour to 2 minutes.
That's good, isn't it? So much time. Time to sit on the beach and drink a tender coconut, perhaps.
I don't know if he gets coconuts in Sweden, but there must be.
Oh, he doesn't? Oh, what do they drink in Sweden?
Some equivalents. I don't know, I
I'm
imagine
sure there's something. Yeah.
It's like a fermented fish juice or something.
Fish juice. Oh my God. How did you get into this field, Gavin? What prompted you to get into this?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, my background is in computer science, like very strict, hardcore computer science. And that was cool. Like that was a lot of fun, solving kind of big problems, small problems. I was working with marketing teams, but it doesn't feel the same like when you work in a business. So I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to have different problems and different experiences. So I went down the freelancing and consulting route, still doing lots of coding stuff. And I found it was just very time consuming. I was only working with one client for a very long time. And it was also in industries I didn't quite love or enjoy that much. And I started working with business coaches, mindset coaches myself, just to work on my own self-development. And naturally, we'd obviously talk about what my focus is, what I work on, my direction. And I realized like these people who I'm getting coaching with and consulting with and getting help from, they're doing amazing work. And there's so many people in the space. They're doing amazing things, helping people, but they, again, were struggling with the overwhelm of technology. They wanted to do things better, but they didn't even know where to start looking, or the
Yeah.
technical jargon was overwhelming for them. And they just didn't even know where to start. And it kind of very smoothly transitioned in that way. I was like, oh, wow, okay, let's work together. I think I can help you with this. And yeah, having like one or two people right at the start go like, oh my God, I can't believe I was spending so much time on this, or this is
Yeah.
like a game changer. Like that's really what made me double down and say, okay, cool, let's move away from the full on coding stuff. Let's look at what tools we can use to help people like online spiritual coaches, consultants,
Yeah.
where it's just maybe one or two people in the business to really give them back more power and focus in their businesses.
Fantastic. And I'm assuming this as well, knowing that you travel and you live in Bali, but you're originally from South Africa and stuff. I'm assuming that doing automation is an online thing and it helps you maintain your lifestyle as well. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, the direction I've gone with my studies and interest in general have always been online focused, like computer science. Even when I was in a company, I always knew that there are people freelancing online, consulting online as programmers. So I always knew that was an option. Like it was kind of always there for me because that's just part of my industry almost.
Yeah. So geography doesn't come into picture when you want to work with clients. Anyone from anywhere in the world can reach out to you and get their business automated.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, time zones can be a little bit tricky sometimes, depending where we are. But yeah, as long as you're able to kind of clearly lay out what the current situation is and what you kind of want things to look like that dream kind of flow and experience, then yeah, you don't really need to ever be face to face. You just need to have a bit of clarity in regards to the goals and what's currently being used, and yeah, the power of the internet.
Fantastic. And if I wanted to get automation for my business, how do I get started?
Yeah, so that's also quite a big question because it comes down to what are you currently doing? Like, what are the processes you're doing in your business? And also, what tools are you using? Are you using lots of Google Docs, Google folders, or are you using specific CRMs like Active Campaign or Close or Pipedrive? What are you using in your business? But for me, that's the first step, is sitting down if you're a business owner and saying, what do I do every day? Essentially, like, what are my tasks? What are my processes when I need to send a proposal or an invoice to someone? What am I doing? Is it like I'm going to my Google Drive, I'm creating a duplicate of the specific file, I change some text in that file, I convert it to a PDF, then I email it to the person. It's like document those steps out, like maybe not as detailed as I kind of brought it up now, but almost like, as if you can, that's amazing. But just understand what are the steps of those tasks you're doing. Also, what are you currently using, like apps wise and software wise, because that does also determine what you can do automation wise. But the first step is just awareness, like what are my actual processes, and documenting that out. I know for myself, even just having it for myself of what do I do when I need to create an invoice, it brings so much clarity and much more efficiency just for myself to know exactly, okay, I need to do an invoice. What are my steps that I've done in the past? And you just kind of follow that. That's really the first step to it.
You said that what you do currently in your business in terms of steps dictates what sort of automation you can get within your business. I mean, automation you can get for your business, right? So the question is, say, for example, I come to you as a client and my processes now are not very efficient.
Yeah.
Would you help me put efficient process in place through your automations?
Absolutely. So the first thing I would do is essentially what I just described, but instead of you doing it on your own, we do that over like a first kind of session. It would be, okay, just talk to me about a day, like a kind of a regular day or a regular week. What are you doing each day? And we kind of start getting a feel for what are the repeated things. Because as we were saying earlier, it's it's only really worth automating things that are getting repeated over and over and over, because that's where the kind of the time saving comes in. So it's sitting down like, okay, what are you doing each week? What are you doing each day? Which one's taking you the most time? And also, which one is the most important? Like, what actually moves you towards sales or keeping in touch with people you're working with? What's building relationships? So also focusing on what are the important things? Because if you're spending 2 hours a day just clicking around in Google, we don't need automation. We just need to cut that out. We just need to find efficiency. So that's the first step, is essentially like, what are you doing? And then once we know that, it's understanding, okay, so you're doing these things right now. What tools are you using for those things? And the reason I ask that is because, if you're already using certain software, you don't want to push someone to have to go to another platform, because there's a learning curve. It throws people kind of out of adjustment, and people use what they like. They're accustomed to it. They're used to it. So if you're using current software already, I just want to see what you can do with the current software automation wise, like get in it to talk to other things. But if you're not using anything, then the discussion comes down to, okay, maybe we need to look at getting you onto a software that can handle 90% of this, as opposed to creating something very custom. So it's kind of from two directions, like technology consulting and also potentially setting up full-on custom stuff.
This conversation is very eye-opening for me. Thank you for all the information you're providing.
My pleasure.
So you just mentioned that your recent client was a Florentine?
Yeah, so his name is Florentine,
Florentine?
Yeah.
Is that the most exciting project you've done, or has there been a very much more exciting project that you've done, or is every project exciting in its own way?
No, every project is not exciting in its own way. But I brought up Florentine specifically just because it was such a quick win, in my opinion. It's because he actually is someone who has like quite a good technology background. Like, he's got a technical mind, but he just didn't have the time to work it out. And like I said, he was already spending so much time. So getting that like win of literally from X hours a week on the certain thing to just minutes, like that's what gets me excited about these projects, like being able to get those like very big wins. But I've also done like what I would say is cool stuff, but that's more for like cool for me, and that I was like, oh wow, that was kind of complicated and I got it working. But for the business owner or the person I'm helping, that doesn't really matter. They're just looking at, am I saving time, or am I getting more clients now, or am I growing my business? So exciting for me is, I guess, a bit different.
It's the geeky or the nerdy excitement, I would call it.
For me, it's more the result. So it is cool when I come up with an interesting solution, but it's more that we got that result for the person with this interesting solution.
Fantastic. And that must be so good, isn't it? You're finding solutions to all these peoples and helping people do what they do best, whilst you just take care of all of their back end, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's the same, but it's the same for me though, because I've got so many things in my business that I also don't enjoy doing, like this. Things I enjoy focusing on, things I don't enjoy focusing on. And I've felt that myself, introducing various quick automations or little setups or procedures that then I can teach someone else to do for me in my business. Like, that makes me feel good. So it's nice to give other people the same experience.
So tell me, this is a bit of a tricky one, but I'm sure you know the answer. You live in Bali.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you from Melbourne, in Australia. Why would I choose Gavin over every other automation person in Melbourne?
That's honestly not for me to decide. It's you can definitely find people who are cheaper. You can definitely find people who are maybe geekier, but for me, it's, I enjoy understanding people's problems. I enjoy working with people who I have a good like personality fit with, because I'm quite conversational and I like to play around. So it
You're quite
really,
authentic.
yeah, I'm not gonna try convince someone to work with me or not, but I'd love to chat with people and see if there is a good personality match there, and then if we can actually
Hmm.
help.
Yeah. And do you want to cover off anything else that I've missed out or failed to ask because I don't understand your industry very well?
Anything else? I would say more just don't be afraid. Like it can be overwhelming, like learning technology, and I definitely don't think anyone who isn't interested in it should like become an expert in it. But watch one or two videos. That's all you really need to do is just YouTube a couple of
Mm.
videos, just have a rough feel for kind of what tools are available, things like that. And that already kind of starts to lift the veil a little bit. And it just kind of gives you context when you do speak with someone.
Oh, yeah. And how can people find you? Where can they find you?
Mm. The best place is definitely my personal website. It's just my first name, last name, so gavinweiner.com. And from
Mhm.
there, you can check out on my homepage. I've got a few testimonials and case studies of the type of things I've done, so it can give you kind of a few ideas. But I also link to my YouTube channel where I've got more kind of deeper tutorials around automation, and I've
Mhm.
got like a introductory kind of series on there, which is also on my YouTube, which is a great starting
Yeah.
point. But yeah, from there you can reach out to me. You can just check out some of my articles, and I'll kind of start introducing you to the world of automation and what you can do with it as an online consultant or coach in whichever space actually.
Oh, fantastic. So there you go. You know where to find Gavin Weiner, and he is a wealth of knowledge, as you've just seen. At least for me, Gavin, you've opened my eyes to the world of automation, and I think I'm going to very, very seriously think about it now because I had no idea it went into such depths. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for educating us on business automation, and keep doing what you're doing and make our lives easy so we can do what we do best and allow you to do what you do best. Thank you very much, and thanks for your time.